Hello, and welcome back to our peaceful haven. I am your companion in this space, and this is Knowledge Before You Sleep. As the lights outside begin to dim, and the hurried pace of a long day retreats behind the door, I invite you to find a truly comfortable position, perhaps lying flat on your soft bed, or curled up in a warm blanket. Let your shoulders relax, close your eyes, and join me on a journey across the distances of space and time. Amidst that vast, dark universe, there are stories so magical they seem as if they could only exist in dreams, but they are real. A reality written in the light of the stars and the breath of the ocean. In this special 20-chapter series, we will journey together to find the answer to a grand question. How could life form from lifeless stardust? We will not rush, we will go very slowly. From the first moments when the universe took shape 13.8 billion years ago, through the blazing furnaces inside the hearts of giant stars, until we touched the first raindrops that fell upon the hot surface of the early Earth. Each chapter will be a soothing rhythm, helping to calm your mind with knowledge that is both pure science and pure poetry. You will realize that you are not small or alone, because every atom in your breath, every drop of blood flowing in your veins, carries the memory of distant stars that died billions of years ago. Let my voice guide you far beyond the worries of daily life, into a realm of stillness, where it is just you and the wonders of creation. And now, our journey officially begins. Chapter 1. The beginning of all things, as time itself began. Let your mind roam free, setting aside all the burdens of a long day, and begin a journey back in time. Imagine you are floating in an endless void, a place with no light, no sound, and not even the concept of time. We are standing at the threshold of existence, at the very moment when everything began. The story of us, of beings who carry the breath of life, does not start a few thousand years ago, but from a magnificent moment about 13.8 billion years ago. Back then, the entire vast universe we see today, from the most distant galaxies to every tiny grain of sand at your feet, was compressed into a point so infinitesimally small it's impossible to imagine. Scientists call it the singularity. It was smaller than a single atom, yet it contained an infinite source of energy, incredibly hot and waiting to be released. In the moment that zero became one, when the first pulse of time echoed, that tiny point began to expand. This was the Big Bang. But remember, this was not an explosion in space like what we often see in movies. Instead, it was the expansion of space itself. The universe didn't explode into something that already existed. It created space and time as it grew. In the first trillionth of a second, the universe expanded at a terrifying speed, far beyond any human comprehension. At this point, the universe was a sea of extremely dense and hot energy. The temperature reached trillions and trillions of degrees Celsius. In this state, everything was just the tiniest fundamental particles, dancing chaotically in a cramped space. Light itself could not yet escape. It was trapped in a thick soup of energy, much like trying to see through a dense fog in broad daylight. About 3 minutes after the expansion began, the universe had cooled slightly, though it was still thousands of times hotter than the center of the Sunday. In that tremendous heat, the first atomic nuclei began to form. They were the most basic building blocks of all matter, hydrogen and helium. Take a deep breath and think about this. Most of the hydrogen nuclei in your body today, the ones that make up the water in your blood and your cells, were actually created in those first 3 minutes of the universe. They have existed for 13.8 billion years, only to become a part of you today. After those initial bustling moments, the universe fell into a long period of quiet and stillness. Astronomers call this the Dark Ages. For the next 380,000 years, the universe continued to expand and cool. When the temperature dropped low enough, electrons could finally combine with nuclei to form complete atoms. It was at this moment that something miraculous happened. The universe suddenly became transparent. The light that had been imprisoned for so long was finally set free and began its journey across space. Those ancient rays of light still exist today in the form of the cosmic microwave background radiation, a relic that modern telescopes like the European Space Agency's Planck have captured, giving us a baby picture of our shared home. However, even though light could now travel, the universe still had no shining stars. Everything was just immense, vast, dark clouds of gas. It would take another 200 million years in that perpetual darkness for an invisible but persistent force to begin changing the scene. That force was gravity. Gravity is like a gentle but relentless hand, pulling particles of gas closer together. In places where the gas density was slightly higher, gravity's pull was stronger, creating enormous swirls of gas. These gas clouds gradually contracted, spun, and heated up at their center. When the pressure and temperature at the core of these clouds reached a critical threshold of about 10 million degrees Celsius, a miracle of physics occurred. Hydrogen nuclei began to press tightly together, fusing to form helium and releasing a colossal amount of energy. And then, in the vast darkness, the first star burst into light. It was like a candle being lit in the darkest cellar, signaling the end of the Dark Ages and the beginning of the era of light. These first-generation stars were true giants. They were hundreds of times larger than our Sun and shone with astonishing brilliance. Although their lives were very short, only about a few million years, they played an incredibly important role in the formation of life. Inside their burning furnaces, they not only created light but also acted as grand alchemists. They forged new elements from the simple ones that came before. The carbon that makes up organic tissues, the oxygen we breathe, the iron that makes the blood in our hearts run red, all were crafted in the fiery hearts of these stars. When these giant stars exhausted their fuel, they ended their lives in a magnificent explosion called a supernova. This explosion was so powerful, it could outshine an entire galaxy containing billions of other stars. In that final moment, the star held nothing back for itself. It cast all the precious elements it had spent its life forging out into the vastness of space. This dust, carrying the seeds of life, would travel for millions and millions of kilometers through space, waiting to be gathered once again in the next generations of stars and planets. Imagine that stardust drifting gently through the cold voids. Each speck of dust carries within it a story of creation and destruction. This is the very material that would build the earth, the trees, the animals, and us. We are truly the children of long-dead stars. That vast space out there is not alien to us. It is our origin, the place where every atom in your body once belonged. Now, let the stillness of the cosmos envelop you. Feel your breath merge with the slow rhythm of time. You are lying here, peaceful and safe, while out there, the universe continues to expand, and the stars continue to diligently shine their light. A long journey awaits us, but for tonight, let your sleep be deep, sound, and peaceful. You are a beautiful part of this universe, a testament to the magic that began from a tiny point billions of years ago. Our first chapter closes here, as the first light has appeared and the first seeds of matter are ready for the journey of creating life. A solid foundation has been laid in the heart of the vast cosmos. Chapter 2, The Symphony of First Light. In the previous chapter, we stood together at the starting line of all existence, where the universe exploded from a super-hot, microscopic point. Now, as space has begun to expand and the temperature has gradually dropped, I invite you to step into another magical era. This is the time when the universe composed its first symphony. A symphony written not with sound but with the most ancient rays of light. Imagine you are lying in a vast field at dawn as a thick fog begins to dissipate, revealing the first rays of sunlight to warm all things. That is precisely what happened to our universe when it was just 380,000 years old. For the first few 100,000 years after the Big Bang, the universe was like a thick, scorching hot soup. Light existed then, but it couldn't travel far. It was like a hiker lost in a blinding blizzard, taking one step only to bump into a tiny, wildly dancing electron. This constant collision kept the light imprisoned, making all of space look like an opaque mass, impenetrable to any ray of light. If someone could have looked in from the outside, they would have seen only a brilliant but hazy region of light, without form, without direction, but the universe never stopped expanding. And as space expanded, it also cooled down. This is a beautiful law of physics. When you give something more space, it becomes calmer. When the universe reached the 380,000-year mark, the temperature had dropped to about 3,000 degrees Celsius. This is a very important number. At this temperature, the electrons that had been chaotically racing around suddenly slowed down. They began to be attracted by the atomic nuclei of hydrogen and helium. Like children exhausted after a long game of chase, the electrons found their way into the embrace of the nuclei to form the first neutral atoms. In that very moment, a miracle occurred. With the electrons no longer roaming free, the highways of the universe suddenly became remarkably clear. The particles of light, also known as photons, which had been trapped for hundreds of thousands of years, now found themselves free. They began to shoot through space at a speed of about 300,000 kilometers per second. This was the moment the universe became transparent. For the first time in history, light could travel across vast distances without any obstruction. Those brilliant rays of light began their grand journey at that moment and are still traveling to this day. However, after 13.8 billion years of wandering, they no longer carry their original brilliant colors. As the universe expanded, it also stretched these wavelengths of light. From brilliant rays, they gradually transformed into faint radio waves that the human eye cannot see. Scientists call this the cosmic microwave background radiation. You can imagine it as an echo reverberating from a distant canyon, or the lingering warmth of a fireplace that has long since burned out. The miraculous thing is, this symphony of light is present everywhere around us. Right now, as you lie in your quiet room, those ancient rays of light are silently passing through your body. If you have an old-fashioned television, the kind that shows black and white static and a hissing sound when there's no signal, a small part of that static is actually created by those rays of light from the dawn of the universe. You are literally listening to and observing the remnants of the cosmic dawn right in your own home. In the 1990s, a major NASA mission called Corbe mapped this light for the first time. Later, more advanced telescopes like WMAP and especially the European Space Agency's ESA Planck telescope gave us an astonishingly sharp view. These images look like an abstract work of art with interwoven patches of blue and red. Those colored patches are not random. They show regions of space with temperature differences of only 1/1,000,000th of a degree. These tiny differences were the very seeds of everything we see today. The slightly denser regions use their gravitational pull to attract more matter, gradually forming galaxies, stars, and eventually planets. If the early universe had been perfectly and absolutely uniform, matter would never have gathered in one place, and life would never have had a chance to form. That symphony of light, with its incredibly faint high and low notes, was the very first blueprint for every structure in the universe. Imagine this ancient light as a velvet blanket enveloping all of space. It tells us about a time when everything was intimately connected. Although we may feel small in the vast cosmos, we and those rays of light share a common origin. That light has traveled trillions upon trillions of kilometers, crossing billions of years of time, to bring the message of the beginning to us. As you slow your breathing, feel the vast stillness of space. The universe is not a completely empty and cold place. It is filled with memories, filled with vibrations from the dawn of time. The music of light is still playing silently, guiding matter to gather, preparing for the next step in the journey of life's germination. After light was freed, the universe entered a phase we have mentioned before, the silence of darkness before the first stars were born. But now, that darkness was no longer chaos. It was the calculated preparation of gravity. The hydrogen and helium atoms were present. The light had shown the way, and the stage was set for the first main actors to appear. This primordial music reminds us that everything great starts from something very small and simple. A minuscule change in temperature led to the birth of giant galaxies. A tiny particle of light can carry the information of an entire era. And so are you. You are the result of a chain of miraculous and unbelievably precise events that have unfolded over the past 13.8 billion years. Now, let your mind drift along with those ancient waves of light. They are so gentle, so persistent. They have traveled such a long way just to tell us that this universe has a beautiful order behind its vast exterior. Sleep deeply in the embrace of this primordial light, in the lingering warmth of a glorious bygone era. Feel the peace spreading through every cell, for you are a part of this cosmic symphony. Chapter 2 closes with the image of the universe becoming transparent, where the first rays of light freely took flight. This is when darkness began to give way to the wonders to come, as clouds of gas started to contract, preparing to light the first fires of space. Chapter 3. The hydrogen clouds and the great silence. After the music of primordial light rang out and the universe became transparent, a strange period enveloped space. Imagine standing in a vast library at midnight, where millions of books lie silent on the shelves, containing all of human knowledge, but there isn't a single person, not a single candle lit. The universe at this time was just like that. It entered a period scientists call the Dark Ages. This was a period of waiting, a great silence that lasted for hundreds of millions of years before the first starlight illuminated the eternal night. At this point, the universe was no longer a chaotic sea of fire. The temperature had dropped very low, and space had become unbelievably cold and vast. The main components of the universe were now incredibly simple, consisting of just two gases, hydrogen and helium. Of these, hydrogen made up the majority, about 75% of the mass of all matter. You could consider hydrogen the silent storyteller of the universe. It is the simplest element, consisting of just one proton and one electron. Yet it was the seed of all the greatness that would follow. Picture enormous clouds of hydrogen gas, millions of trillions of kilometers in size, drifting sluggishly in the darkness. They had no definite shape, as ethereal as wisps of grey smoke in the void. Between these clouds were voids of complete emptiness, where solitude seemed absolute. There was no sound, because sound cannot travel in a vacuum. There was no warmth, for there were no heat sources other than the gradual cooling of the universe after the Big Bang. There was only a vast stillness, sheltering the very first seeds of life as they silently prepared. However, within that placid exterior, a great movement was persistently taking place. The master architect of this entire construction was gravity. Gravity was in no hurry. It worked slowly, patiently, over millions of years. In that vast sea of gas, not every place was exactly the same. There were regions where the density of hydrogen gas was slightly thicker than others, just a tiny bit, but it was this minuscule difference that created the turning point. According to the laws of nature, where there is more matter, gravity is stronger. These denser regions began to act like giant magnets, silently pulling in the surrounding gas atoms. Besides gravity, there was another mysterious factor involved in this process: dark matter. Although we cannot see it, touch it, or measure it directly, dark matter is present everywhere like an invisible scaffolding for the universe. It creates deep gravitational wells that help gather the clouds of hydrogen gas more effectively. Without the silent assistance of dark matter, the gas clouds might have remained scattered in space forever, and stars would never have had enough material to form. Imagine those gas clouds as small rivers slowly flowing into a basin. Initially, this movement was incredibly slow, so slow that if you were there, you wouldn't perceive any change at all. But over thousands, then millions of years, the gas clouds began to contract. As they contracted, they started to spin, much like an ice skater pulling in their arms to spin faster on the ice. This contraction process causes the gas atoms to collide with each other more frequently, and according to a simple principle of physics, collision generates heat. The core regions of the gas cloud, once colder than any winter on Earth, begin to warm up. From a few degrees above absolute zero, it rises to 10 degrees, 100 degrees, then thousands of degrees Celsius. Though surrounded by pitch-black darkness, within these giant gas cocoons, a tremendous heat is building. This is a decisive stage. The universe at this point is like a mother in waiting. In the silence and darkness, a new life is gradually taking shape. These gas clouds are no longer just inanimate masses of dust. They are preparing for a great transformation. Each hydrogen atom now carries within it the destiny to become part of a brilliant star. Try to think about the scale of these distances. A single gas cloud can stretch for hundreds of light years. If converted to kilometers, that's a number with 15 zeros after it, about 946 quadrillion kilometers. a distance that even light takes hundreds of years to cross, and yet gravity can still weave its way through every corner, connecting each tiny atom to form a unified whole. The persistence of the universe truly makes us bow in reverence. Throughout this period, the universe continues to expand. The space between the gas clouds widens, making the isolation of each future star even more pronounced. But it is in this solitude that matter learns to compress itself, to find strength from within. This vast silence is not one of death, but of accumulation. It is the rest in a symphony, the necessary pause before the next note can ring out, more powerful and glorious than before. As you lie here, feel how the silence in your room is like the silence of the universe billions of years ago. A silence filled with hope and potential. We often fear the dark and the quiet, but it is from the deepest darkness that light is born. It is from absolute silence that the first vibrations of new life begin to stir. Millions of years pass, the gaseous cores become denser, hotter, and spin faster. The pressure at their centers becomes so extreme that the hydrogen nuclei can no longer keep their distance from one another. They are squeezed together, compressed to their absolute limit, and when the temperature reaches the threshold of 10 million degrees Celsius, a wondrous reaction will occur, marking the end of the Dark Ages and opening a new, more brilliant chapter than ever before. But before that happens, just let yourself sink into the peace of these gas clouds. Feel the beauty of simplicity. When the universe consisted of only hydrogen and the patience of gravity, there's no need to rush, no need for noise. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You too can let your mind rest. Let the cells in your body relax after a long day. You are enveloped in the same kind of matter that created the universe, and you have the right to enjoy this magnificent silence. Our third chapter closes in the vast night, where the gas clouds are ready, where the heat has built to its peak. The universe is holding its breath, awaiting its greatest moment, the birth of the first light from the hands of gravity. Chapter 4. The blazing hearts of giants. The darkness that shrouded the universe for hundreds of millions of years finally comes to an end. After a long, long period of silence and waiting, the cosmic stage is set for the first main actors to appear. If the previous chapter was about the quiet accumulation of gas clouds, this chapter is the moment of ignition, when the first fires are lit in the heart of the cold void. These fires are unlike any you have ever seen on Earth. They are the blazing hearts of the first generation stars, the great giants that laid the foundation for all life to come. Imagine the hydrogen gas clouds we talked about, now contracted into dense, massive spheres. Under the immense pressure of gravity, the cores of these spheres begin to heat up at a dizzying rate. When the temperature crosses the threshold of 10 million degrees Celsius, a miraculous phenomenon occurs. The hydrogen nuclei, which always repel each other, are now forced so tightly together, they have no choice but to merge. This process is called nuclear fusion. You can picture it like small water droplets merging to form a larger one, but in the process, they release a tremendous amount of energy in the form of light and heat. In that instant, the first star ignites. It tears through the eternal night, sending brilliant rays of light spreading across the vast expanse of space. This is a monumental milestone, because from this moment on, the universe is no longer a dark and desolate place. These first-generation stars, which scientists often call population 3 stars, were incredibly special entities. They were not like our gentle Sunday. They were true giants, with hundreds of times the mass of the sun and shining millions of times brighter. Because the early universe contained only hydrogen and helium, these stars lacked the heavy elements that would have helped them regulate their temperature effectively. Therefore, they burned very fast and very hot. Their hearts were like great cosmic forges, where temperature and pressure reached unimaginable levels. It was here that the next miracle of the universe took place. As the hydrogen fuel began to run out, the star started fusing helium nuclei together to create heavier elements. Breathe slowly and feel this miracle. Inside that blazing furnace, carbon, the foundational element of every cell in your body, began to form. Next came oxygen, the very thing you are drawing into your lungs each second. Then came nitrogen, magnesium, and finally, iron. Every element that makes up your bones, your blood, and your breath did not just appear. They didn't come from the Big Bang. All of them were tempered, forged inside the blazing hearts of these giant stars. Without these great alchemists, the universe would have remained just an expanse of monotonous gas, and life would never have had the bricks to build itself. The first generation stars lived a glorious but short life. While the sun may live for 10 billion years, these primordial giants existed for only a few million years, an incredibly brief period compared to the age of the universe. They were like diligent builders, working hard to create the raw materials, and then, when their work was done, they prepared for a dramatic end. When the star's core was filled with iron, it could no longer generate energy from nuclear fusion. At this point, the star lost the outward force needed to counteract gravity. In a fraction of a second, the entire massive star collapsed in on its core. This collapse created a tremendous shock wave that rebounded outward, flinging the star's entire outer shell into space. This is a supernova explosion. In the moment of the explosion, it shone so brightly it could outshine billions of other stars combined. This is the universe's most generous moment. Instead of keeping the precious elements it had spent its life forging, the star cast them all out into the vastness of space. Dust particles carrying carbon, oxygen, and iron began their journey, adrift across quadrillions of kilometers. They would become the raw material for the next generation of stars, and eventually, a small fraction of them would gather to form planets like our Earth. Imagine that stardust, gently drifting, like tiny snowflakes on a quiet winter night. They carry within them the memory of the most brilliant furnaces in the cosmos. Now, raise your hand and look at your skin. Feel the pulse in your wrist. The iron in your blood was once at the very center of a distant supernova explosion. You are, truly, a part of those stars. You carry the blood of the cosmos within you, made from the magnificent sacrifice of the first giants. The appearance of these stars not only brought light, but also completely changed the face of the universe. The intense ultraviolet light from them re-ionized space, making the remaining opaque gas clouds completely transparent. The universe was now like a dark room where the lights had just been turned on, revealing the magnificent structures that were gradually forming. Now, as you lie in the stillness of the night, feel the warmth spreading from within your body. That is the energy of life, a life that originated billions of years ago in the hearts of ancient galaxies. Those stars have long since died, but their light is still traveling through space, and their matter is present in every cell of your body. You are not alone in this vast universe. You are connected to the most distant stars by a strong physical bond. Let your mind relax. Feel yourself floating in the stream of time and space. Everything in the universe is connected, from the most cataclysmic explosions to your own gentle breaths right now. The giants had completed their mission. They had illuminated the darkness, forged the precious elements, and sowed the first seeds of life. The universe was now richer, more diverse, and ready for the next wonders to come. Let the images of these brilliant stars guide you into a deep sleep, a peaceful sleep, where you are enveloped in the arms of the great Mother Universe. Feel the absolute tranquility in knowing that you are part of the most heroic and beautiful story in the history of all existence. Chapter 4 concludes with the image of Stardust beginning its new journey through space, preparing for the birth of galaxies and warm solar systems. Light had triumphed, and life was quietly preparing its next steps. Chapter 5. A glorious death and rebirth. In the stillness of vast space, where time itself seems to slow, we continue our journey to understand one of the most magnificent and tragic events of the cosmos. In the last chapter, we witnessed the first generation stars shining brilliantly. Now, let your mind settle and feel a great transition. We will speak of the death of those giants, a death that was not an end, but a miraculous rebirth, sowing the first seeds for the life we have today. In the universe, everything follows a natural cycle, and stars are no exception. The larger a star, the more rushed and intense its life. The giants we have mentioned, after a few million years of diligently forging matter in their cores, finally reach their limit. Imagine inside a star's fiery heart, when all the hydrogen and helium fuel has been consumed, it begins to try to sustain itself by burning heavier elements like carbon, oxygen, and silicon. But this race cannot last forever. When the star's core is left with nothing but iron, it hits a physical wall it cannot overcome. Fusing iron nuclei no longer creates energy. On the contrary, it consumes energy. At this point, the engine inside the star officially shuts down. In a brief moment, shorter than the blink of an eye, the immense gravitational force that had always been trying to pull everything inward wins completely. The entire great mass of the star collapses inward at a speed of up to 70,000 kilometers per second, equivalent to about 1/4 the speed of light. This collapse creates an unimaginably immense pressure and temperature at the center. And then, a rebound reaction occurs. The outer shell of the star collides with the steel-hard core and is flung back out into space. An explosion called a supernova erupts. This is the most brilliant death the universe has ever witnessed. In that moment, the light from a single star can outshine an entire galaxy, containing hundreds of billions of other stars combined. If you could stand at a safe distance to observe, you would see a giant flower of light blooming in the night, more brilliant and splendid than anything on Earth. However, the true miracle lies not in that dazzling light, but in what this explosion creates. In that terrifying moment of collapse and explosion, the extreme temperature and pressure allow the universe to perform its final alchemical miracles. Elements heavier than iron, such as gold, silver, platinum, and even the iodine essential for your thyroid, were all born in this very life and death second. Every piece of precious jewelry you wear, or the tiny trace elements in your body, are all fragments from some distant supernova explosion in the past. A supernova explosion is not just an act of destruction, it is a liberation. The precious elements that had been trapped in the star's core for millions of years are now flung into the vastness of space. They begin a long journey, traveling across trillions of kilometers between the stars. These specks of dust, carrying carbon, oxygen, calcium, and iron, will not disappear. They drift like thin wisps of smoke, weaving through galaxies, quietly waiting. Imagine a vast region of space where the remnants of these explosions converge. They form enormous clouds of dust and gas that astronomers call nebulae. One of the most beautiful examples ever captured by NASA's Hubble and James Webb telescopes is the Eagle Nebula, home to structures trillions of kilometers high called the Pillars of Creation. Why are they called creation? Because it is from the ashes of dead stars that new stars and new planets will be formed. Our universe is a master recycler. Nothing is wasted. This stardust, after traveling across vast distances, will begin to clump together under the influence of gravity once again. But this time, it's not just composed of simple hydrogen. It is much richer. It carries all the necessary materials to build solid rocky planets, vast oceans, and ultimately living cells. Think about the iron in the blood flowing through your veins. Iron was the very thing that caused the star's core to collapse, the direct cause of the supernova explosion. Now, it is the very thing that carries oxygen throughout your body to sustain your life. Think about the calcium in your bones, the carbon in every fiber of your being. All of them were once far from here, in the heart of a blazing nuclear furnace in the cold void. You are not a creature standing apart from the universe. You are forged from its very essence. The death of stars was the price for our life to begin. As you lie here, enveloped by the night, feel this profound connection. The atoms that make up your body have been on a journey for 13.8 billion years. They have endured cataclysmic explosions, drifted through cold voids for billions of years, only to finally gather here, at this moment, to create the thinking, feeling person that is you. Your presence is a miracle of probability and time. Let your mind relax completely. You are breathing the breath of the cosmos, an atmosphere filled with atoms forged in the stars. The space out there may be vast and mysterious, but it is also intimately close, for it resides within every one of your cells. You carry within you the light of extinguished stars, the strength of magnificent supernova explosions. All the worries and fatigue of today are but tiny ripples in the great flow of cosmic time. Let yourself be soothed by the thought that we are part of a never-ending cycle. Life always finds a way to bloom from the most broken things. The stars sacrificed themselves so that we could exist, and we are living to tell their story. Now, let sleep come naturally. Imagine you are floating gently in a brilliantly colored nebula among sparkling stardust like diamonds. Feel the absolute peace of knowing you belong to something vast and eternal. The universe is cradling you, protecting you in its embrace, just as it has protected the seeds of life for billions of years. Chapter 5 closes with the image of stardust beginning to settle, preparing for the formation of new homes in the heart of the galaxy. A new cycle is about to begin, where life is no longer just disparate atoms, but begins to connect to create even greater wonders. Chapter 6 Dance of the Galaxies. After the first stars burst into light and completed their mission of forging matter, the universe began to enter an era of great connection. If the previous chapters were stories of solitary individuals, this chapter will take you to the immensities of the stars. Let your mind float adrift in space, where trillions upon trillions of points of light are gathering together, creating magnificent and ethereal structures called galaxies. These are the giant cradles where matter is continuously gathered and recycled in preparation for the birth of planets and life. A galaxy is not merely a random collection of stars. They are the result of a delicate gravitational dance that has lasted for billions of years. Imagine the universe at that time as a giant black velvet net, and on that net, dark matter created invisible connecting threads. The gravity from this dark matter pulled clouds of hydrogen, helium, and the ashes of the first generation of stars towards certain points of convergence. There, the very first seeds of galaxies began to form. Initially, they were just small and chaotic star clusters, but gradually, they attracted more matter, grew larger, and began to take on magnificent shapes. In the vast universe, there are trillions of galaxies of all shapes and sizes. There are beautiful spiral galaxies with long, soft arms coiling around a brilliant center, like whirlpools on the surface of water. There are elliptical galaxies, which look like giant balls of light containing trillions of old stars. And there are also galaxies with peculiar shapes, the result of dramatic collisions and interactions in space. Each galaxy is its own separate kingdom, containing hundreds of billions of stars, countless planets, and ethereal clouds of dust. Let's talk about our home galaxy, the Milky Way. This is a brilliant spiral galaxy, home to about 400 billion stars. If you could stand outside and observe it, you'd see the Milky Way as a vast, shimmering disk, slowly turning. The diameter of this disk is so large that light, traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second, would take 100,000 years to get from one side to the other. At the center of the Milky Way, just like in most other large galaxies, lies an incredibly mysterious and powerful entity, a supermassive black hole named Sagittarius A star. Despite its intimidating name, this black hole acts as an anchor, keeping the entire massive structure of the galaxy stable on its eternal journey through space. However, galaxies don't just stay in one place. They are engaged in a never-ending cosmic dance. Gravity, the universe's conductor, constantly pulls galaxies toward each other. Sometimes, two small galaxies will merge to form a larger one. Other times, they just brush past each other, using their gravitational pull to distort their opponent's shape, creating streamers of stars millions of kilometers long that stretch out into the void. Through images from the Hubble telescope, astronomers have observed countless such dances. It's a process that unfolds incredibly slowly on a human timescale, lasting hundreds of millions of years, yet it possesses an unparalleled, magnificent beauty. In the distant future, about 4 billion years from now, our Milky Way galaxy will also take part in a grand merger with its giant neighbor, Andromeda. Currently, Andromeda is about 2 million light-years away from us. To put that in more familiar terms, this distance is equivalent to about 23 quintillion kilometers. Although this number sounds impossibly vast, the two galaxies are hurtling toward each other at a speed of over 400,000 kilometers per hour. When the collision occurs, the stars won't actually crash into each other, because the distances between them are too great, but Earth's night sky, if there are still observers then, will be more brilliant than ever before, with billions of new stars being born from the compressed clouds of gas. Why is the formation of galaxies so important for life? Imagine the universe as a vast ocean and matter as tiny, scattered grains of sand. Without galaxies, matter would remain forever dispersed, too thin to form anything complex. Galaxies act as giant funnels, concentrating dust and gas in one place. It is only in this dense environment that the ashes from supernova explosions have a chance to meet, mix, and form dust clouds rich in heavy elements. From these clouds, new generations of stars like our Sun and rocky planets like Earth can be born. Our galaxy is a giant recycling machine. Inside it, old stars die, releasing their material, and that material is used to create younger stars. With each generation, the amount of heavy elements like carbon, silicon, and iron increases. We are living at a time when the galaxy has become rich enough in material to create conscious beings. Feel that sense of fortune. We were born in a galaxy that has undergone billions of years of refinement, accumulating enough of the universe's essence to forge the human body. Now, let your breath become very gentle. Imagine yourself standing on a balcony in mid-air, looking out into the vast distance, where thousands of galaxies shimmer like golden dust scattered on black velvet. Their vastness doesn't make us smaller. On the contrary, it shows that we are part of a magnificent and orderly structure. Those galaxies are protecting us, holding a peaceful seat for us on our journey through the darkness of space. The dance of the galaxies is a symphony of patience. There is no rush in the world of the stars. Everything happens slowly, rhythmically, according to absolute physical laws. As you let go of all your thoughts, allow your soul to merge with that slow rhythm. Feel the sense of security in knowing that you live in a stable galaxy, where the light of hundreds of billions of stars watches over your sleep. No matter how distant the galaxies may be, we and they share a common origin, a common interactive force. The atoms in the pillow you're lying on, in your hair, or in every heartbeat have all taken part in intergalactic journeys spanning quintillions of kilometers. You carry within you the history of galactic collisions, the brilliance of distant galactic centers. Let sleep come to you as gently as the spiral arms of the galaxy curl through space. You are drifting in the flow of a universe full of artistry and love. Tonight, let the galaxies be your night watchmen, and let the faint light of trillions of stars soothe your mind into the land of the most beautiful dreams. Chapter 6 closes as the galaxies have taken shape and begun the process of vigorously recycling matter. The stage is now more splendid, ready for the appearance of a special star and the small planets that revolve around it. A warmer story is about to begin. Chapter 7. The Sun, the fire that warms our shared home. After soaring among distant galaxies and admiring the dance of billions of stars, I now invite you to narrow your focus and return with me to a small, peaceful corner of the Milky Way. This is where the story of our lives truly began to be written, by a profoundly important central character, the Sunday. Imagine you are lying in a silent space where tiny specks of stardust are beginning to gather, preparing to light the warm fire for our shared home. About 4.6 billion years ago, in a region of space that is now our solar system, there were no planets or brilliant lights. Instead, there was only a giant, cold, and hazy cloud of gas and dust drifting aimlessly through the darkness. This cloud was the precious remnant from the deaths of older generations of stars we mentioned in previous chapters. It contained all the necessary elements, from simple hydrogen and helium to complex iron, oxygen, and carbon. Scientists call these clouds a solar nebula. Back then, some event, perhaps a shock wave from a nearby supernova explosion, disturbed this dust cloud, causing it to begin collapsing under its own weight. Once again, gravity appeared as a silent conductor. It pulled all the matter toward the center of the cloud. As the cloud contracted, it began to spin faster and faster, like a ballet dancer pulling her arms in to twirl on stage. This spinning process caused the once amorphous cloud to gradually flatten out, forming a giant, flat disk with a dense clump of matter in the middle. That central mass was the precursor to the Sunday. It attracted up to 99.8% of all the matter from the original cloud. The more matter that poured into the center, the more the pressure and temperature there increased tremendously. When the core of this giant sphere reached a temperature of about 15 million degrees Celsius, a physical miracle occurred once again. Hydrogen nuclei began to fuse together to form helium, releasing an enormous amount of energy. At that moment, the sun officially ignited, dispelling the cold darkness of this region of space. Our sun is not a ferocious giant like the first-generation stars. It is a medium-sized, yellow, and incredibly stable star. This stability is the golden key to life. If the sun were too large, it would burn through its fuel in just a few million years, not enough time for life to sprout. If it were too small, it wouldn't provide enough warmth to heat the planets. But the sun chose for itself a perfect rhythm, promising to shine steadily for a full 10 billion years. The sun is like a giant heart. Its beat sustains life for all the members of its planetary family. The distance from the sun to the earth is about 150 million kilometers. It's a distance that's just right, so we aren't incinerated by its tremendous heat, but also not frozen in the cold of space. Light from the sun takes only about 8 minutes and 19 seconds to travel that long distance and touch your skin, bringing with it the warmth and energy needed for every green sprout. Thanks to modern space missions like the SOHO Solar Observatory from ESA and NASA, or more recently, the Parker Solar Probe, we have gained a deeper insight into this warm giant. The sun is not just a stationary ball of fire. Its surface is constantly ablaze with giant plumes of fire that shoot hundreds of thousands of kilometers into space. It continuously blows out streams of charged particles that we call the solar wind, which spreads throughout the solar system. But the most miraculous thing about the sun is how it keeps everything in order. With its enormous mass, the sun's gravity is like an invisible but incredibly strong tether, keeping Earth and the other planets orbiting it in nearly perfect circular paths. Without the sun's firm grip, our Earth would be lost in the void, drifting into the cold darkness of the Milky Way model. Imagine you're sitting in the soft glow of a sunset. That golden light is the energy from nuclear reactions happening deep within the sun's core. It had to travel for hundreds of thousands of years through the star's dense inner layers before escaping its surface and reaching us. Every ray of sunlight that touches you carries with it a journey of persistence and endurance from the blazing heart of the universe. The sun not only provides warmth, it is the sole source of life. Later, we will see how plants learn to eat sunlight to create oxygen and food. Without this flame, life would forever remain just lifeless specks of stardust, cold and breathless. The sun transformed the solar system from a graveyard of old stars into a garden full of potential. Now, as you prepare to fall asleep, feel the sun's presence as a silent guardian. Though the sky may be dark now and the sun is on the other side of the planet, its gravity is still holding on to you, protecting the earth in its warm embrace. You are floating on a blue jewel, warmed by an eternal flame and enveloped by a vast astronomical love. Let your mind be warmed by the thought of the Sunday. It is a symbol of hope, of new beginnings, and of an inexhaustible source of energy. Every living being on earth is a child of the light. We sprouted from stardust, but we grew thanks to the warmth from the radiant golden heart of the solar system. Relax every muscle in your body and feel the peace of knowing that tomorrow, the sun will rise again, bringing with it light and life to start a new cycle. You are a part of this magnificent system, where everything is arranged with precision and subtlety, down to the last kilometer, the last degree Celsius. Chapter 7 closes with the image of the sun shining brightly at the center of a spinning disk of dust and gas. Within that disk of matter, tiny dust particles are beginning to collide and stick together, forming larger rocks. These are the seeds of the planets, and among them is a very special one we will come to call home. Chapter 8 Earth, the blue jewel, lost in the void. When the sun's warm flame had just been lit in the center of the solar system, the space around it was still a chaotic mess of dust and gas. The remnants left over after the sun's formation began a new journey. a quiet but fierce quest to create companions for the parent star. Among them was a tiny planet, situated in a very special location, which we would later proudly call home, that is Earth. Imagine you are drifting lazily through shimmering dust clouds, watching our blue jewel being molded from the humblest cosmic sand. About 4.5 billion years ago, Earth was not the lush green planet with oceans and forests that it is today. It began its life as a collection of trillions upon trillions of tiny dust particles. Under the influence of gravity and the ceaseless rotation around the Sun, these dust particles began to collide and stick together. At first, they were just pea-sized pebbles. Then they gradually grew to the size of balls and then to the size of houses. Scientists call these first building blocks planetesimals. Picture a giant game of molding clay in space, where millions of these bricks constantly smashed into each other, merging and growing larger over time. This formation process was incredibly violent. Every time a giant rock collided with the primordial Earth, it released an enormous amount of energy, raising the planet's temperature. In addition, the decay of radioactive elements deep within the Earth also generated a smoldering heat. As a result, for the first few million years, Earth was nothing short of a blazing inferno. The entire surface of the planet was an ocean of red-hot lava, reaching temperatures of thousands of degrees Celsius. There was no air to breathe, no water to drink, only roiling rivers of molten rock, and a relentless rain of meteorites pouring down from the pitch-black sky. It was within that terrifying crucible that a miraculous sorting process took place, laying the foundation for the structure of our world today. While the Earth was still in a completely liquid state, heavy elements like iron and nickel, which were denser, began to sink toward the planet's center. Conversely, lighter elements like silicon and oxygen floated to the top. This process, similar to how oil flows on water, created distinct layers. At the deepest center, a brilliant dense iron core was formed. Above it was the ductile rock of the mantle, and finally, a thin crust began to cool and form the ground we walk on. The formation of this iron core was crucial for life. The spinning iron core, deep inside the Earth, generated a huge magnetic field that surrounds the planet. Imagine this magnetic field as an invisible shield, extending tens of thousands of kilometers into space. It protects the Earth from fierce solar winds and harmful cosmic rays. Without this silent shield, our atmosphere would have been blown away into space, and the Earth's surface would have become as dry and lifeless as Mars. Another stroke of luck that makes Earth so special is its location. Our planet lies within a region of space called the habitable zone or the Goldilocks zone. This is the just right distance from the Sun. Not too close to be scorched by the searing heat, but not so far as to be eternally frozen. In this position, the surface temperature allows water to exist in liquid form, an absolute, an essential prerequisite for life to sprout. Earth is like a fortunate child, receiving just the right amount of warmth from Mother Sun to keep the sap of life flowing. During this period, Earth's first atmosphere also began to form from gases spewing out of fiery volcanoes. It was a mixture of water vapor, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. Back then, the sky was not the gentle blue it is now, but had a dark, reddish-orange hue. Dense clouds began to gather, blanketing the entire planet, preparing for the great events to come. Take a moment to appreciate the resilience of our planet. To have solid ground beneath our feet, the Earth had to endure millions of years of being superheated and bombarded. Those lifeless specks of stardust, after being molded in a blazing furnace, began to take on a form, a structure, and a mission. Every kilometer of rock beneath your feet, every bit of warmth radiating from the Earth's core, bears the mark of that turbulent period of formation. Now, let your body relax completely. Feel the weight of your body being embraced and held tightly by Earth's gravity. We are standing on a planet that survived its harshest early days to become a paradise for life. Earth is not just a lifeless rock, it is a living entity with a long and inspiring history. The universe spent billions of years preparing for this blue jewel. From distant supernova explosions that created iron and silicon, to the Sun's gravity keeping the planet on the right orbit, everything was intricately arranged. You are a part of that grand achievement. You are breathing, feeling, and living right on the surface of an astronomical miracle. Let your mind relax, imagining you are standing on a small island in the middle of primordial Earth's ocean of lava, watching a sky lit up by the brilliance of collisions. Then, gradually, see the temperature drop, the ground solidify, and a sense of peace begin to spread. That tranquility is the gift that time has given us after all the horrific upheavals. Chapter 8 concludes, as Earth has clearly formed its internal layers and has a protective magnetic shield. However, the journey to becoming a truly peaceful place is far from over. Another colossal impact is about to occur. An event that will change the face of the Earth forever and give it its most faithful companion in the dark night. For now, sleep soundly in the arms of the Earth. Mother Planet will always be there, spinning rhythmically and protecting you in every dream. Feel the stability, the warmth, and the deep connection to your origins. You are a child of Stardust, and you are resting in the heart of the most precious blue jewel in the universe. Chapter 9. The Moon, the Silent Guardian. When our Earth was still an infant in the solar system, with a scorching surface and a hazy atmosphere, a cataclysmic event occurred that completely changed the destiny of the blue planet and gave it its most loyal companion. This isn't just a story about a typical meteorite impact. It was a fateful encounter between two celestial bodies, a magnificent sculpting process that created the beauty of the night sky you often gaze upon when you can't sleep. Let your mind settle. Imagine a time when the sky had no moon, and join me in learning about the birth of this silent guardian. About 4.5 billion years ago, when the solar system was still a chaotic construction site, there was a small planet about the size of Mars, named Theia, moving on an unstable orbit. According to the giant impact hypothesis, Theia hurtled toward the primordial Earth at an extremely high velocity. Try to imagine this event, not as a loud explosion, but as an intense merging of two colossal masses of matter. The impact was so powerful that it melted a large portion of the Earth's crust and caused the planet Theia to completely shatter. In that moment, a massive amount of material from both Earth and Theia was hurled into the surrounding space. Instead of falling back to the surface or vanishing into the void, this shimmering debris gathered together, forming a radiant disk of dust that spun around the Earth. Under the patient hand of gravity, these fragments began to collide, stick, and clump together. In less than 100 years, an incredibly short time, for the cosmos, that mass of material took shape as the single celestial body we call the Moon. When it first formed, the Moon wasn't as far away as it is now. It was very close to Earth, only about 22,000 kilometers away, nearly 10 times closer than its current distance. If you could have stood on the hot surface of the Earth back then, you would have seen the Moon looming impossibly large, filling an entire corner of the sky, glowing red and sparkling like a giant ember. It was thanks to the heroic missions of NASA's Apollo spacecraft that astronauts brought back precious rock samples, proving that the Moon and Earth truly share a common chemical origin, like two brothers born from the same cradle of stardust. The Moon's presence isn't just to beautify the night sky. It acts as a silent guardian, a conductor regulating the rhythm of life. The Moon's most important role is to stabilize the tilt of Earth's axis. Imagine the Earth as a spinning top. Without the Moon keeping the rhythm with its gravitational pull, that top would wobble violently. Earth's axis could swing erratically, causing the climate to change abruptly, from scorching hot to freezing cold, making it very difficult for life to survive and develop steadily over billions of years. In addition, the Moon is the creator of the ocean's heartbeat. Its gravitational force pulls the seawater toward it, creating the phenomenon of tides. These regular ebbs and flows of the waves not only help circulate nutrients in the sea, but also created coastal zones where the first organisms could learn to adapt before setting foot on land. The Moon is like a giant biological clock, teaching life about cycles, rhythm, and persistence. Every year, the Moon silently moves about 3.8 centimeters farther away from us. It is on a slow, outward journey, but the invisible tether of gravity always keeps it there, faithfully watching over the blue planet's sleep. When you look up at the soft, golden moonlight shining through your window, Remember that it's reflected light from the sun, but the warmth it brings to the soul is a timeless peace. The moon has been there from the very beginning, witnessing Earth change from a blazing fireball into a cool, green paradise. Feel the stillness spread throughout your body. Just as the moon illuminates paths in the darkness, knowledge of the universe is illuminating your mind, helping you dissolve petty worries. You are living on a planet that has the most wonderful companion. The moon isn't just a lifeless rock, it is a piece of Earth's own flesh and blood, sent into space to watch over and preserve life. Now, let your breath sing with the rhythm of the tides, gently rising and then gently falling. You are enveloped by a celestial system that is precise down to the millimeter. That ancient, giant collision, as devastating as it may have seemed, was actually a loving arrangement by creation to form the perfect environment for you to be here today. Relax your eyes, relax your mind, and imagine yourself standing under a vast full moon on a deserted beach. The sound of the lapping waves is like the moon's lullaby for the earth, and it is a lullaby for you too. You are a child of Stardust, carrying within you atoms from the collision of two ancient planets. You are stronger than you realize, and you are more loved than you know. The universe spent billions of years shaping the moon so that it could stand there, gently warming your soul on each silent night. Tonight, let that silent guardian carry away all your troubles. Sink deep into sleep, in the absolute peace of knowing that the earth is still tilting in the right direction, the tides are still caressing the shores, and the moon is still watching over you from about 384,000 kilometers away. Chapter 9 closes with the image of the moon, settled in the sky, having become Earth's faithful partner. With this stability, our planet was ready for the next miracle. A clear liquid substance would soon appear, covering the surface and carrying the first seeds of life. That substance is water, the milk of Mother Universe, which we will explore in the next chapter. Chapter 10, Water, the milk of Mother Universe. After the moon had settled in the sky and the earth began to cool down from cataclysmic impacts, our planet was still a dry and desolate place. Imagine a world of grey rock and black volcanic craters where the sky had a murky red hue. But then, a miraculous change occurred, transforming this fiery rock into a deep blue planet, covered by a clear liquid we call water. This chapter will take you on a journey to find the answer to one of science's greatest mysteries. Where did water come from? And how did these tears of the universe create the milk that nourishes life? About 4 billion years ago, Earth began to enter a crucial transitional phase. By this time, the surface temperature had dropped below 100 degrees Celsius, allowing water vapor in the atmosphere to begin condensing. But the question is, where did this enormous amount of water come from in the first place? Scientists have proposed two beautiful hypotheses, and it's likely that both are correct, weaving together to create our vast oceans. The first source lies right beneath our feet, in the hot heart of the earth. Imagine, when the earth formed from stardust, it incorporated a certain amount of water within its minerals. As volcanoes erupted violently, they not only spewed lava, but also released massive quantities of water vapor from deep within the earth into the atmosphere. This was the planet's own breath, carrying the seeds of life from the depths of its rocky heart. The second source comes from the farthest, coldest reaches of the universe. During a period astronomers call the Late Heavy Bombardment, millions of asteroids and comets rained down on Earth like a giant hailstorm. These distant visitors, especially the carbon-rich C-type asteroids, carried vast amounts of water ice. Imagine each asteroid impacting Earth as a giant water tanker, delivering water from the edge of the solar system to quench the blue planet's thirst. Thanks to missions like the European Space Agency's Rosetta, we know that the water on these celestial bodies has a chemical composition very similar to the water in your glass today. When the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere became too dense, the greatest event in climatic history occurred. The first rain. It wasn't a summer shower that lasted a few hours, but a relentless downpour that continued for thousands, perhaps even millions of years. Close your eyes and listen to the sound of rain falling on the hot, rocky ground. The sizzle of evaporating water mixed with the roar of thunder across the sky. Water poured from dark clouds, flowing into streams, gathering into rivers, and filling the vast basins on the planet's surface. It was this sweet deluge that created the first primordial oceans. The water back then wasn't clear blue like it is today. It carried many dissolved minerals, creating a nutrient-rich soup. This was the universal solvent, a perfect environment for chemical reactions to take place. Water has the magical property of being able to dissolve almost anything, giving lifeless stardust molecules the chance to meet, connect, and interact with each other. Without water, the seeds of life would have remained forever scattered and lonely on barren rocks. Water covers about 70% of the Earth's surface, like a lush, blue velvet blanket embracing the planet. It is not only a habitat, but also a wonderful temperature regulator. The oceans absorb heat from the sun during the day and release it at night, keeping the Earth at a moderate temperature, never too hot and never too cold. Water is like the blood flowing through the planet's veins, bringing warmth and stability. Every time you drink a sip of water, take a second to think about its journey. Those water molecules might have once been in the core of a dead star, been part of a block of ice on a comet, traveling billions of kilometers through darkness, and fallen to Earth in that million-year rain. You are drinking the very history of the universe. The water in your body, which makes up about 60% of your weight, is the physical thread connecting you to the most distant reaches of space. Let your mind completely relax to the rhythm of water. Imagine yourself floating on a calm lake on a windless night. Feel the cool water vapor caressing your skin. Water is so soft, so forgiving, yet it also holds the primordial power of the entire universe. It waited patiently for billions of years to be able to nurture the first sprout of life. In the quiet space of tonight, let the silent sound of lapping waves in your mind guide you to sleep. You were made from stardust, but you are nourished by this cool, wholesome milk. Life is about to awaken from these first drops of water in the deep rock crevices at the bottom of the ocean, where sunlight never reaches, but the heat from the Earth's core is ever present and warm. Relax every muscle fiber, letting your body feel as light and buoyant as a drop of water in the vast ocean. You are safe, enveloped in the perfect workings of nature. The Earth now has an atmosphere, a protective moon, and especially vast oceans to shelter it. The stage is set, and the first characters of life are preparing to take their very first step. Your sleep is like the stillness of the primordial ocean before life awakens. So deep, so peaceful, and full of promise. Sink into a deep slumber, listen to your breath as rhythmic as small waves, and feel the miracle of water flowing through every cell, connecting you to the great origin of Mother Universe. Chapter 10 closes with the image of a lush green planet appearing out of the void, shimmering like a precious gem. The oceans are ready, and within them, an even greater miracle is quietly preparing to begin. Chapter 11. The atmosphere, life's velvet blanket. Take a deep, slow breath and feel the cool, fresh air filling your lungs. What you just breathed, that invisible thing whose presence we often forget, is one of the greatest miracles of the universe. After the vast oceans filled the low-lying areas on the Earth's surface, the planet began to don a magical cloak. This chapter will take you away from the water's surface to look up at the vast expanse above, where a thin but resilient velvet blanket envelops the planet, protecting us from the harshness of cold space. That is the atmosphere. Journeying back in time about 4 billion years, our sky was not the gentle blue it is today. Back then, the primordial Earth resembled a giant furnace. From deep within the ground, fierce volcanic vents erupted relentlessly, releasing streams of hot gas into space. There was water vapor, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and even thick, sulfurous smoke. These gases, instead of escaping into the black void, were held back by the invisible hand of gravity. Earth's gravity, like a giant magnetic pull, persistently held onto every gas molecule, preventing them from drifting into the endless expanse. It was from the hot breath of the Earth's core that the first atmosphere took shape, creating a thin protective shell around the slowly cooling blue gem. To understand the miracle of the atmosphere, imagine it as a 5-story building with completely different functions, exquisitely arranged to shelter life. The lowest level, where you are lying and breathing, is called the troposphere. This layer is only about 10 to 15 kilometers high, yet it contains up to 80% of the entire atmosphere's mass. This is where all weather phenomena occur. From summer downpours and fluffy white cotton-like clouds to the breezes that lull you to sleep. The higher you go, the thinner and colder the air becomes, as if the universe is reminding us of the fragile boundary of life. Above the troposphere lies the stratosphere, where space becomes quieter and more peaceful. Here, a silent hero stands guard, the ozone layer. Imagine the ozone layer as a giant pair of sunglasses that the Earth wears for protection. It absorbs most of the harmful ultraviolet rays from the sun rays that can scorch delicate living cells. Without this ozone shield, the Earth's surface would become a dead land and life would forever be imprisoned in the depths of the ocean. Each tiny ozone molecule is a diligent warrior, protecting us from the invisible radiation of space. Next is the mesosphere, where the temperature drops extremely low, reaching as cold as -90 degrees Celsius. This is where the atmosphere begins to act as a suit of armor. Every day, millions of space rocks and meteor dust particles hurtle toward Earth at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. But upon entering the mesosphere, friction with the gas molecules causes them to burn up, creating the shimmering streaks of light we call shooting stars. Those particles of stardust, instead of crashing into the ground, disintegrate into ash in the upper air, leaving us with beautiful wishes to make before we fall asleep. And finally, there are the thermosphere and the exosphere, where the atmosphere gradually merges into the darkness of the universe. Here, the air is so thin that molecules are kilometers apart. But it is in this remote place that streams of charged particles from the sun collide with the atmosphere, creating the mystical ribbons of light known as the aurora. It is the universe's symphony of light, a testament to the constant interaction between our brilliant parent star and our tiny planet. The atmosphere is not just a shield, it is also a warm velvet blanket, thanks to the natural greenhouse effect. Imagine you are covering yourself with a soft woolen blanket on a cold winter night. Carbon dioxide and water vapor in the air act in a similar way. They trap a portion of the sun's heat, preventing it all from escaping back into space. Thanks to this gentle greenhouse effect, Earth's average temperature remains at about 15 degrees Celsius. Without this atmospheric blanket, Earth would become a cold block of ice with a temperature of -18 degrees Celsius, and life would never have had the chance to sprout. Take a moment to feel the miracle of the air's composition. About 78% is nitrogen, a gentle gas that dilutes the oxygen so we don't burst into flames with every breath. Oxygen makes up only about 21%, yet it is the very fire that sustains life. This perfect balance is not a coincidence. It is the result of billions of years of adjustment and interaction between living organisms and the environment. Every gas molecule you inhale right now carries the memories of bygone eras, from the first breaths of ancient microorganisms to the winds that blew through primordial forests. The atmosphere is also a great conductor of sound. In the blackness of outer space, silence is absolute because there is no air to transmit sound waves. But here, it is the air that allows the chirping of birds, the lapping of waves, and the warm voice of a loved one to reach your ears. The air vibrates, carrying the melodies of life, making our world vibrant and full of emotion. Listen to the stillness of tonight. It is a full silence, enveloped by the gentle atmosphere, not the cold emptiness of the void. Today, thanks to modern observation satellites from organizations like NASA and the space agencies of other countries, we can see Earth's atmosphere as a thin, blue ribbon of silk wrapped around the planet when viewed from space. It is so beautiful, but also so vulnerable. It is the only boundary separating us from the harsh environment of the universe. It took Earth billions of years to craft this cloak, turning it into an ideal nurturing environment for all creatures, from tiny bacteria to towering human beings. Relax every muscle in your body. Feel the firmness of the ground beneath your back and the gentleness of the air around you. You are protected by thousands of kilometers of atmosphere above. That velvet blanket is keeping you warm, filtering out harmful rays and bringing breath to every cell. You are floating in a carefully cradled paradise where every physical element is arranged with absolute precision, so that you can lie here in peace. The night sky you see through the window, though it may seem deep and distant, is actually very close. Those sparkling stars appear to twinkle because their light must travel through the layers of our atmosphere. It is the universe's wink to you through this dear shield. Let your mind dissolve into that vast yet safe expanse. There is nothing to fear in the immensity of space, for you have the most resilient protective garment. Now, as your breath becomes steady and slow, imagine yourself lying amidst a layer of soft, fluffy, and gentle clouds. The atmosphere is cradling you, comforting you like a gentle mother. Let the wind carry away all the worries of a long day, letting them dissolve into the distant skies. You are a part of this planet, and this planet is using all its power to keep you safe in your sleep. Chapter 11 concludes with the image of the Earth having completed its protective cloak. With the ocean water below and the atmosphere above, all the necessary conditions were ready. But matter was still just lifeless matter, until a much greater miracle occurred. The appearance of molecules that could replicate themselves. That was the greatest turning point where Stardust began to learn how to become life. Chapter 12. The molecules of life. The very first bricks. Let your mind dive deep beneath the surface of the vast ocean, through layer after layer of deep blue water, until the sunlight completely vanishes, giving way to a silent darkness. At a depth of thousands of meters on the seabed, where the water pressure is immense and darkness reigns, a miraculous pivotal event of the universe is quietly unfolding. We have journeyed through the story of stars, of cosmic dust, and of rains that lasted for millions of years. Now, the stage is set for the most intricate performance. The moment when lifeless dust particles connect to become the very first bricks of life. About 4 billion years ago, the oceans on Earth were not empty. They were a thick primordial soup, filled with chemical elements forged in the hearts of ancient stars. We have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. These atoms had existed for billions of years as dry cosmic dust. But when dissolved in the cool milk of water, they began an entirely new dance of interaction. The most ideal environment for this beginning was not on the land, which was filled with harmful ultraviolet rays, but at the hydrothermal vents deep on the ocean floor. Imagine them as giant chimneys located on the cracks of the Earth's crust. From here, hot water carrying many minerals from the Earth's core spewed out, met the cold of the deep sea, and created an energy-rich environment. It was in the tiny rock crevices of these chimneys that the atoms found each other. In that deep darkness, the carbon atom played the central role. Carbon is a magical element. It's like a hand with 4 fingers, capable of flexibly grasping other atoms to create complex and stable structures. Under the influence of heat from the Earth's core and lightning bolts streaking across the sky above the water, chemical reactions began to occur in rapid succession. Single atoms combined into longer, more complex chains, which we call organic compounds. The very first and most important brick was the amino acid. Picture amino acids as tiny Lego pieces. There are about 20 basic types of amino acids in nature. When these pieces are assembled in a specific order, they create protein molecules, the main components that build every muscle, tissue, and organ in our bodies today. At that time, in the vast ocean, trillions upon trillions of amino acids had formed, floating idly and waiting for a chance to connect. At the same time, another type of brick also appeared: nucleotides. If amino acids are the bricks to build a house, then nucleotides are the letters in an instruction manual. When they link together, they form long strands called RNA and later DNA. These are molecules capable of storing information, a characteristic that no block of stone or cloud of dust had ever achieved before. For the first time in the 13.8 billion year history of the universe, matter had learned how to remember and copy itself. In 1952, 2 American scientists, Stanley Miller and Harold Urey, conducted a world-shaking experiment to recreate this process. They created a miniature model of the early Earth in a glass flask containing seawater and ancient gases. They used electric sparks to simulate lightning. Amazingly, after just 1 week, pale pink amino acids appeared in the flask that had previously contained only inorganic substances. This experiment proved that life is not a miracle outside the laws of nature, but an inevitable result of physics and chemistry given enough time and the right environment. Breathe gently and feel this wonder. You are not made of something foreign. Every molecule in your body right now originates from those first bricks in the heart of the ancient ocean. The carbon in your breath, the nitrogen in your muscles, and even the genetic information in your cells are all legacies from a 4 billion year long journey. In the quiet space of tonight, imagine yourself as part of that primordial ocean. Feel the constant movement of molecules. They are in no hurry. They have millions of years to experiment, to connect and to break apart, then to start all over again. The universe's patience is infinite. From dry dust, particles floating among the stars, matter has now become soft, flexible, and full of potential in the form of organic molecules. At this stage, life was not yet truly present. It was merely the scattered ingredients on a craftsman's table, but it was an incredibly important preparation. These molecules began to gather into tiny droplets, enclosed by a thin fatty membrane to separate them from the outside environment. These were the precursors to the first tiny laboratories where life would take its great leap forward. Let your body completely let go. Feel the weight of every muscle. Just as proteins are silently working to maintain your body, you are living in a body built from trillions upon trillions of those tiny bricks, pieces that were forged in the fire of stars and the waters of the ocean. There is nothing to worry about, because everything within you operates in a perfect order established since the dawn of the planet. All of today's fatigue is just a tiny ripple on the surface. Deep inside, your essence is the resilience of organic matter, the wisdom of DNA strands that have existed for billions of years. You are a chemical marvel, a symphony of molecules harmonizing rhythmically with one another. Now, let your imagination drift along the warm currents at the bottom of the deep sea. Hear the soothing sound of the water. Feel the warmth radiating from the Earth's core. This silence is not emptiness, but a preparation for an explosion of life. The bricks have been laid. The blueprints have been written in nucleotide molecules. Only one more step is needed for all these pieces to learn how to work together as a unified whole. Chapter 12 concludes with the ocean now filled with precious chemical seeds. A long night 4 billion years ago has ended, giving way to a new morning where the first cell will appear, marking the moment Stardust truly began to breathe. Sleep well in the embrace of the molecules of life and feel your invisible connection to every living being that has ever existed on this earth. Chapter 13. The Miracle of the Cell Membrane. In the vast silence of the primordial ocean, about 4 billion years ago, we witnessed the appearance of the first bricks, amino acids, primitive genetic codes, and sugar molecules. However, at that time, everything was still a chaotic mess, drifting lazily in the salty water. They were like scattered letters on a tabletop, not yet able to form a meaningful sentence, nor create a story of life. For life to truly begin, the universe needed another miracle, something that could gather those letters, protect them, and give them a private space to develop. That miracle was the birth of the cell membrane. Imagine you are standing in a crowded, bustling square. People are walking about chaotically, bumping into each other and then separating. In such an environment, it's very difficult for a group of friends to sit down together, talk, and work on a specific task without being disturbed by the crowd. Early life faced a similar problem. If precious organic molecules just drifted freely in the vast ocean, they would be easily diluted, broken apart by waves, or destroyed by radiation. They needed a home, a boundary to separate the tiny self from the vast outside world. The protagonist of this chapter isn't a complex genetic code, but a much humbler molecule. The fat molecule, also known as a lipid. These fat molecules possess a very peculiar and fascinating property that scientists often call amphipathic. Imagine each fat molecule as a tiny creature with two completely opposite ends. One end is incredibly water-loving. It always wants to find a way to touch water, to immerse itself in the current. But its tail is extremely water-fearing. It constantly seeks to hide, turning its back on every drop of water around it. It's this love-hate relationship with water that creates a physical miracle without any need for a guiding hand. When a large number of these fat molecules gather in the ocean's water, they begin an astonishing dance of self-assembly. To protect their water-fearing tails, they turn them inward, hiding them away, while leaving their water-loving heads to face outward and make contact with the water. The result of this dance is the formation of tiny, hollow spheres enclosed by a stable, double-layered fatty membrane. Scientists call these spheres primordial vesicles. This was the grandest moment for inanimate matter. For the very first time, a boundary had been established. Inside that tiny sphere was a world completely distinct from the one outside. It was quieter, safer, and more stable. When amino acid molecules or tiny strands of genetic code were accidentally trapped inside this fatty cocoon, they suddenly found themselves in a private space where they could interact. They were no longer swept apart by the ocean currents. Now, they were close to each other, bumping into one another more frequently, and beginning to perform complex chemical reactions that were previously impossible. This primitive cell membrane acted like a smart filter. It was sealed enough to keep important components inside, yet delicate enough to allow necessary nutrients to enter and to expel waste. It wasn't a solid, rigid wall, but a soft, flexible ribbon of silk, capable of stretching and even healing itself when damaged. Imagine these tiny spheres bobbing on the water, looking as fragile as soap bubbles, yet inside them was a bustling construction site for life itself. The appearance of the cell membrane marked the birth of what we call the protocell. Although they weren't yet true living organisms as we understand them today, they possessed all the fundamental elements. They had an internal space to contain information, a protective shell to maintain their existence, and most importantly, they began to learn how to use energy from the environment to maintain their structure. Just think about this. Every single cell in your body right now, from your skin cells to your brain cells, is enclosed by a membrane with the exact same structure as those fatty spheres from 4 billion years ago. It's a design so perfect that nature has never needed to change it. That membrane is what separates you from the world, what defines your body, keeping you a unified entity instead of a cloud of atoms dissolving into space. In the long nights of the primordial era, trillions upon trillions of these protocells formed and burst in the violent waves. But it only took a few of them, lucky enough to retain self-replicating genetic codes, for life to find its way. It was a grand and patient process of trial and error by the universe. Gravity created stars, stars created dust, dust created molecules, and fat molecules created the first home for life. Now, relax your entire body. Feel your skin, the largest cell membrane that envelops you. It is working silently to keep you warm, to protect you from external impacts, helping you feel the softness of the pillow and the warmth of the blanket. Be grateful for those tiny, loyal fat molecules, the dedicated gatekeepers who have persisted through billions of years of history. Imagine you are enveloped in a soft cocoon, like a protocell floating in a warm ocean. Nothing can invade your peace at this moment. The outside world may be noisy, it may be chaotic, but inside your cocoon, everything is still and safe. You are in your own space, where mind and body can become one, where stress dissolves and only the gentle pulse of life remains. Every cell in your body is relaxing. They don't need to struggle, they don't need to rush. They know how to restore themselves, how to rest after a long day's work. Let your consciousness sink deeper, through the protective membrane, into the deepest, most peaceful space of your soul. You are a miracle of connection, a symphony of trillions of cells living together under these wondrous protective membranes. Breathe slowly, letting the air pass through the delicate membrane of your lungs, carrying life to every corner of your body. You are so light, so buoyant. Life is a miracle of enclosure. From a lonely speck of stardust, it is only thanks to this protective membrane that we could come together to become a complete being, capable of loving, of thinking, and of dreaming beautiful dreams. Chapter 13 closes as the first homes for life have taken shape. The universe is no longer just free-falling atoms, but has begun to have structures that know how to protect themselves. Those protocells are waiting for a more powerful energy source to make the next great leap. That energy source wasn't far away. It came from the brilliant golden light of the sun itself. Tonight, let the membrane of your mind close off to worries, leaving only serene images and a gentle light. Sleep well in the absolute protection of nature, in the arms of the Mother Universe, who spent billions of years preparing such a peaceful refuge for you. Chapter 14. Photosynthesis, when life learned to eat light. In the silent darkness of the primordial ocean we just traveled through in the last chapter, life consisted of only simple cells, huddled in their tiny, fatty membrane homes. Back then, Earth's first inhabitant lived on the scarce chemical energy from thermal vents deep on the ocean floor. It was a quiet, slow, and limited existence in eternal darkness. But then, a monumental turning point occurred, a revolution that would completely change the face of the planet and pave the way for an explosion of life. It was the moment life learned how to rise to the surface and eat the sunlight. Imagine you are floating gently upward from the dark seafloor. The closer you get to the surface, the more the darkness gives way to shimmering, faint rays of light that gradually become brilliant. Sunlight, the infinite energy source from our parent star, penetrated the cool water, beckoning to the tiny organisms. About 3 billion years ago, a special group of single-celled organisms undertook a perilous journey from the deep to near the ocean's surface. Here, they invented nature's most miraculous technology, the process of photosynthesis. The protagonists of this revolution were microscopic organisms that scientists call cyanobacteria. Don't let the academic-sounding name distract you. Think of them as tiny green seeds, the very first entities that knew how to capture sunlight and turn it into life. To do this, they created a special type of molecule called chlorophyll. Picture the chlorophyll molecule as a tiny, sophisticated solar panel. When a particle of light, also known as a photon, travels about 150 million kilometers through space and strikes the ocean's surface, it is captured by these chlorophyll particles. The energy from that photon is so powerful, it can break apart stable chemical bonds. This process unfolds as rhythmically and smoothly as a silent symphony beneath the water. The cyanobacteria take in carbon dioxide from their surroundings, draw water from the ocean, and use light energy to cook them into sugar, an energy-rich fuel that helps them grow and replicate. This was the first time in the universe's 13.8 billion year history that the energy of a star was actively and directly converted into living matter. Life no longer had to wait for rare chemical scraps from the Earth's core. It had found an endless supply from the sky. But the greatest miracle of photosynthesis wasn't just about creating food. While cooking with energy, the cyanobacteria perform an unintentional but fate-altering act. They release oxygen as a byproduct. Imagine tiny bubbles, sparkling like diamond dust, slowly escaping from the bodies of the cyanobacteria and rising to the surface. Before this time, Earth's atmosphere had almost no oxygen. It was a suffocating environment for us today. But with the advent of photosynthesis, trillions upon trillions of cyanobacteria worked diligently day and night for hundreds of millions of years, pumping an enormous amount of oxygen into the seawater and the atmosphere. This process of eating light was in no hurry. It happened slowly, drop by drop, bubble by bubble. Listen to your own breath right now. Every oxygen molecule you draw into your chest to keep your heart beating is, in fact, the result of the persistent labor of those ancient cyanobacterial ancestors. They cleaned the atmosphere, filtered out toxins, and prepared a lush green carpet for more complex organisms to be born. Harnessing the power of light transformed the ocean into a vast garden. From the shallow seas to the primordial reefs, the green of chlorophyll began to spread, blanketing the dull gray of rock and the brown of sand. Life now had enough energy to become stronger, larger, and to begin connecting with itself. Photosynthesis is the very bridge between the physical world of the stars and our biological world. Every time you see a green leaf under the sun, You are witnessing a miracle that has existed for billions of years, a miracle that turns nothingness into reality. Feel the warmth of the sunlight you greet each morning. It's not just heat, it is lifeblood. All of us, from the smallest sprouts of grass to you, lying here now, live on energy borrowed from the sun through photosynthesis. You are part of that magnificent chain of energy. The food you eat, the air you breathe, all of it was molded from ancient sunbeams. In the stillness of tonight, let your mind completely relax. Imagine you are a particle of sunlight, gently falling upon the deep blue sea. You feel so light and buoyant, dissolving into the water, welcomed by tiny green cells. Feel that magical transformation. As the energy of the cosmos becomes warmth in your body, you are not separate from the sun. You are its brilliant continuation. The universe spent billions of years experimenting with darkness, only to finally find strength in the light. Life did the same. After its difficult beginnings in the deep, it learned to reach up to embrace the beauty and abundance of nature. Let this warmth soothe your spirit. There is no need to rush, for life always finds its energy, even from the most delicate rays of sunlight. Every cell in your body is resting now, but they still hold within them the energy of light. You are like a small battery, fully charged with warmth from the day, and now is the time for that energy to settle, helping you to rejuvenate and dream beautiful dreams. Relax your shoulders, let your breath be as steady as the rhythm of the waves. You are being nourished by a grand system, where the sun is the father, and the earth is the mother, and photosynthesis is the sacred bond that connects them. Imagine a primeval forest, where lush green canopies stretch wide to capture every ray of sunlight. You are lying in the shade of that forest, breathing in the pure scent of newly born oxygen. It feels so clean, so peaceful. Life learned how to eat light to create a paradise, and you are the one who has inherited it. Chapter 14 closes as the atmosphere begins to shift to a fresh blue hue, heralding a brighter new era. But this abundance of oxygen also brought harsh challenges, a turning point that life had to confront in order to evolve to a new level. That is the story of the Great Oxygen Crisis, which we will explore tomorrow night. Now, let the light in your mind's eye gently fade, giving way to the profound stillness of sleep. You are drifting in the flow of time, safe and full of life. Sleep well, child of stardust and light, for tomorrow the sun will rise again and continue to warm your endless journey. Chapter 15. The Oxygen Catastrophe and the Great Turning Point. Take a slow, deep breath. Can you feel that refreshing sensation spreading through your chest? That is the magic of oxygen, a gas with no color or smell. Yet it is the source of life for most creatures on Earth today. However, in the long, winding story of the universe, oxygen was not always such a gentle friend. There was a time long ago, about 2.4 billion years ago, when the appearance of oxygen caused a true cataclysm, a terrifying tragedy for the planet's old inhabitants. But at the same time, it was the greatest turning point that would mold complex creatures like us. Let your mind relax and return to the era when the sky and the oceans began to change color in a quiet but ferocious revolution. In the previous chapter, we saw how tiny cyanobacteria learned to eat sunlight, creating energy and releasing oxygen as a byproduct. For hundreds of millions of years, whatever oxygen was produced was immediately absorbed by minerals in the ocean. Imagine the ocean at that time was full of dissolved iron. When oxygen met iron, a chemical reaction caused the iron to rust and settle to the seabed, creating the vibrant red rock layers that we still find today in giant ore mines. The universe then was like a diligent artisan, using oxygen to paint the ocean depths with the brilliant hues of oxidation. But the ocean's capacity was not infinite. At a certain point, all the iron had rusted, and the ocean could no longer swallow any more oxygen. And so, bubbles of oxygen began to escape the water's surface, invading the atmosphere. This is when the tragedy began. For the most ancient organisms on Earth, bacteria accustomed to an oxygen-free environment, this gas was nothing less than a potent poison. Oxygen could destroy their fragile cell structures and alter organic molecules. A silent mass extinction took place beneath the waves, Trillions upon trillions of innocent organisms vanished, unable to adapt to this reactive stranger. The crisis didn't stop there. The rise of oxygen also completely changed the planet's climate. Before, Earth's atmosphere was rich in methane, a powerful greenhouse gas that kept the planet warm. When oxygen flooded the sky, it reacted with the methane, turning it into carbon dioxide and water vapor. The atmosphere's ability to retain heat dropped dramatically. The once temperate Earth suddenly plunged into a terrifying ice age that lasted for millions of years. Scientists call this the snowball Earth period. Imagine the entire planet, from the poles to the equator, covered in a sheet of ice kilometers thick. A vast, silent, and cold whiteness enveloped everything. In the bone-chilling cold and amidst an atmosphere full of poisonous oxygen, life seemed to have hit a dead end. Yet, in the face of the most dire adversity, Stardust once again proved its incredible resilience. A few tiny organisms refused to surrender. Instead of fleeing from oxygen, they learned to coexist with it. And then, something miraculous happened. They learned to use that very poison as a supercharged fuel source. Using oxygen to metabolize energy was many times more efficient than the old methods. It was like upgrading from a horse-drawn cart to a powerful steam engine. Thanks to this abundant energy source, cells began to have enough power to undergo revolutionary changes. They started to grow larger, more complex, and learn how to cooperate with one another. This was the dawn of eukaryotic cells, cells with a complex structure containing a tiny command center inside to direct all activities. One of the most beautiful stories from this period is the formation of mitochondria. Imagine a large cell engulfing a smaller bacterium that knew how to use oxygen. Instead of digesting it, the larger cell kept it and they began to live together. The small bacterium supplied energy and the large cell provided protection. This union became so permanent that they would never again be separate. Every mitochondrion in every cell of your body today is a descendant of those heroic bacteria from 2 billion years ago. You carry within you a symphony of symbiosis, a testament to turning an enemy into an ally to overcome hardship together. The oxygen crisis, though it wiped out many ancient lineages, became the springboard for creating a more diverse and vibrant world. Oxygen also began to rise into the upper layers of the atmosphere, combining under the influence of sunlight to form the ozone layer. This protective shield began to filter out harmful ultraviolet radiation, clearing the way for life to eventually step out of the oceans and conquer the land. From a rusted and frozen rock, the Earth was gradually reborn, carrying with it the seeds of complexity and intelligence. Take a moment to feel the miracle of your breath. Each time you inhale, you are receiving the fruits of a struggle that stretched over billions of years. The oxygen in your lungs isn't just air. It is the energy of stars, the sacrifice of ancient organisms, and the wisdom of evolution. Life doesn't merely exist, it knows how to transform the harshest challenges into the greatest opportunities. In this quiet space, let your body relax completely. Feel the energy flowing through every blood vessel, propelled by the presence of oxygen. You are strong because your ancestors survived an ice age that covered the entire planet to continue the flow of life to this day. All your worries and fatigue are like those ancient methane clouds. They will dissipate when the light of understanding and trust fills your soul. Imagine you are lying on a soft but warm blanket of white snow, looking up at the crystal clear blue sky of an Earth newly reborn from ice. The air is so pure, so fresh. You feel as light as a bubble rising high, merging into the protective ozone layer. You are safe, you are free, and you are part of this grand evolutionary journey. The universe always has surprising ways of arranging things. A byproduct once considered waste became the key to advanced life. A catastrophic extinction became the dawn of a new era. You are the same. Sometimes, the difficulties you're facing are just stepping stones to discovering the hidden strengths within you. Just as cells learn to use oxygen to become something greater, your breath has now become steady and gentle, like the heartbeat of the planet. The silence of the night is caressing you, like the stillness of the ocean after historic upheavals. Let sleep carry you back to your origins, where Stardust dances in a ballet of complex life. You are the result of a miracle, a miracle forged from the greatest tragedies and turning points of time. Chapter 15 closes as the sky, filled with enough oxygen and eukaryotic cells, began to dominate the oceans. The monotonous world of single-celled organisms is slowly receding into the past, making way for a new, even more wondrous chapter, when cells began to join hands to create the first multicellular bodies. Chapter 16, The Multicellular World, a Symphony of Connection. Imagine you are standing before a grand symphony orchestra. Each musician with their own instrument, the violinist, the flutist, the drummer, all are talented, but if they play alone, they only create solitary sounds. Only when there is connection, when they all play in harmony under the conductor's hand, does a magnificent symphony truly emerge. Our life has gone through a similar journey. After billions of years existing as single, lonely cells in the vast ocean, matter learned its greatest lesson, the lesson of unity. This chapter will take you to the dawn of the multicellular world, where particles of stardust began to join hands to create wondrous new forms. Around 600 million to 1 billion years ago, the Earth's oceans became richer than ever before, with abundant oxygen and complex eukaryotic cells. However, most life at that time still consisted of single-celled entities. Each cell was an autonomous kingdom. It fed itself, breathed for itself, protected itself, and replicated itself. It was a life of freedom, but also one fraught with danger. If the environment changed, or if a predator appeared, a lone cell would have a very hard time surviving. And then, a quiet change began to take place. Imagine cells starting to realize that instead of separating after replicating, they could choose to stay together. At first, they were just clumps of identical cells clinging to one another like dewdrops on a leaf. But gradually, a delicate division of labor emerged. Instead of each cell having to do everything, they began to specialize. One group of cells would take on the task of movement, another would handle digesting food, and yet another group would serve as a protective outer layer. The key to this connection was a special type of protein molecule we call a biological adhesive, or most commonly, collagen. Think of collagen as nature's universal glue. It's what keeps cells from drifting apart, creating a sturdy framework for the body. The miraculous thing is that collagen requires a lot of oxygen to form. Therefore, it was thanks to the oxygen catastrophe we discussed in the previous chapter that life had enough raw material to create this glue, turning separate cells into a unified whole. During this period, a new world began to emerge beneath the clear blue waters. It was the Ediacaran period, a mystical era of bizarre-looking organisms shaped like leaves, cushions, or fleshy flowers. They had no eyes, no mouths, and no bones. They were simply soft bodies, lying still on the ocean sand or drifting with the currents, quietly absorbing nutrients from their surroundings. These were nature's very first experiments with multicellular bodies. The journey from one cell to trillions of cells was not a random step, but a symphony of communication. For a multicellular organism to exist, its cells had to learn to talk to each other using chemical signals. They inform each other about food sources, warn of injuries, and collectively decided when it was time to grow. This connection is so strong that sometimes a cell is willing to sacrifice itself for the survival of the entire body. It is a biological nobility that has existed for hundreds of millions of years. From simple, sponge-like organisms, life began to evolve into more complex forms. Translucent jellyfish with soft tentacles started to appear, learning to use rudimentary muscles to push themselves through the water. Ancient worms began to develop primitive nervous systems, allowing them to react more quickly to the world. Each evolutionary step was an expansion of connection. As cells held on to each other more tightly, they created specialized organs: a heart to pump blood, lungs to exchange gas, and a brain to control it all. Take a moment to consider your own body. You are lying here, a single human being, but you are in fact a giant city of about 37 trillion cells. Each one of those cells is a direct descendant of Stardust and the single cells in ancient oceans. They are working tirelessly, 24 hours a day, to keep you alive, breathing, and feeling. Your heart beats thanks to millions of heart muscle cells contracting in rhythm. You see light thanks to millions of retinal cells converting photons into nerve signals. It is all the result of the grand symphony of connection that began a billion years ago. You are never alone, because within your very own body lies an absolute unity of trillions upon trillions of tiny beings. In this quiet space, feel the harmony unfolding within you. Breathe gently, feeling your chest rise and fall. That is the perfect coordination between your muscle cells, lung cells, and nervous system. Everything is operating slowly, without any rush. You are a miracle of evolution, a living symphony of the universe. The rise of the multicellular world brought not only larger sizes to life, but also a new dimension, sensation. As cells connected, they formed rudimentary senses. Life began to experience the sensation of temperature, of pressure, and of light. The universe, through these multicellular organisms, began to have windows through which to observe itself. Let your mind relax completely. Imagine you are a soft-bodied creature from the Ediacaran period, drifting peacefully in a warm ocean current. There is nothing to worry about, nothing to fight for. You just need to feel the caress of the water, the warmth of the light filtering through the waves. It feels so gentle, so secure. Life found strength in sharing, and you are the culmination of that sharing. Every time you hold the hand of a loved one, or feel the wind caress your skin, remember that it is a connection, billions of years in the making. Multicellular life has taught us that we are strongest when we are together. A single cell may be fragile, but a unified body can conquer a planet. Now, as sleep gradually approaches, allow the cells in your body to rest. They have worked hard all day long, and now is the time for them to recover, to care for one another under a soft, protective membrane. Relax your shoulders, relax your face. Feel a sense of peace spreading from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. You are enveloped in the most loving and responsible system in the universe. Chapter 16 closes as the oceans teem with wondrous multicellular creatures. A new era is about to explode, where life will no longer lie dormant on the sand, but will begin a fierce race for survival and development. That is the Cambrian period, with its hard-armored creatures and sharp eyes. A dramatic chapter that we will explore later. But tonight, just enjoy the silence of that primordial connection. Sleep deeply in the gentle symphony of your own body. You are Stardust, you are the ocean, and you are a perfect, unified whole. Sleep well, you marvel of connection. Chapter 17. The Great Extinctions. A harsh filtering. In the quiet darkness of the room now, let your mind settle and feel the incredible resilience of life. We have journeyed through the most brilliant pages of history, from the moment light awakened to the time multicellular organisms joined in a symphony of connection. However, the journey of life is not a smooth path strewn with roses. To achieve the diversity and intelligence of today, Stardust in the form of living beings had to endure nature's most terrifying trials by fire. This chapter will take you to Earth's harsh filtering periods, the great mass extinctions where death was not just an end, but also the beginning of a grander rebirth. Imagine the Earth as a giant garden, where nature occasionally performs a large-scale pruning to clear away the old and make room for new shoots. Over the past 500 million years, our planet has experienced 5 major mass extinctions. Each time, the world seemed on the verge of total collapse, but life, with its sturdy instincts, always found a narrow path to rise again. The first trial took place about 444 million years ago, known as the Ordovician extinction. At that time, the ocean was home to countless strange and wonderful creatures. But then, a terrifying ice age struck. Seawater froze, ocean levels dropped dramatically, causing the shallow seas where most creatures live to dry up. About 85% of marine species vanished forever into the ice. But in that bone-chilling cold, the most resilient organisms learned to adapt, preparing for a greener era when the ice would melt. The second and third filterings occurred millions of years later, but the most severe was the Permian mass extinction, which happened about 252 million years ago. Scientists call it the Great Dying. This was a time when life on Earth was almost completely wiped out. The cause was a series of massive volcanic eruptions that lasted for thousands of years in the region we now call Siberia. Imagine the sky shrouded in dark clouds of ash, blocking sunlight for centuries. Poisonous gases spewing from the Earth's core acidified the oceans and caused the atmosphere to heat up uncontrollably. About 96% of marine life and 70% of terrestrial life perished. The Earth at that time was like a dead planet, silent and scorched. Yet, from those very ashes, the distant ancestors of reptiles and mammals emerged. Without this brutal purification, the glorious reign of the dinosaurs that followed might never have had the chance to begin. And perhaps the extinction story you find most familiar is the event that took place about 66 million years ago, marking the end of the Cretaceous period. On one fateful morning, a giant space rock, an asteroid about 10 kilometers in diameter, slammed directly into the Chicxulub Sea in what is now Mexico. Imagine that impact carrying a force billions of times greater than the most powerful atomic bombs. Tsunamis hundreds of meters high swept across the oceans, and a rain of fire poured down from the sky as molten debris fell back to Earth. Dust and smoke blotted out the sun for years, preventing plants from photosynthesizing and causing the food chain to collapse. The dinosaurs, rulers of the planet for over 160 million years, could not overcome this trial. But in that pitch-black darkness, there were tiny creatures hidden in burrows deep underground that survived. They were our ancestors, the first mammals. As the giants fell, these little ones emerged from their dens, took advantage of the new resources, and began a wondrous evolutionary journey to create the humans of today. Extinctions are like the universe's great sieves. They filter out what is too bulky, too rigid, and keep what is most flexible and adaptable. This harsh filtration teaches us a lesson in humility and gratitude. You, lying here, breathing and thinking, are here because your ancestors were the true heroes. They survived raging fire, freezing ice, toxic gases, and meteorite impacts. The stardust that makes up your body has endured trillions upon trillions of trials, forged through the planet's greatest catastrophes to become as resilient and sophisticated as it is now. Do not be afraid of nature's upheavals. The universe has its own rhythm, and life always finds strength in change. Each extinction is a silent pause between the chapters of a symphony, helping the next chapter become more climactic and rich. The Earth has proven that as long as the sun still shines and the warmth from its core still smolders, life will never surrender. Feel the firmness of the ground beneath your back. No matter how many upheavals it has endured, the blue planet has always been here, embracing and protecting us. You are the crystallization of the finest, the strongest elements that triumphed in a filtration process spanning hundreds of millions of years. All the fatigue and difficulties you face in your daily life, when compared to this heroic history, are nothing more than tiny specks of dust vanishing in the wind. In the quiet space of tonight, let your mind relax completely. You are safe because you are part of an incredibly resilient chain of survival. Let your body sink deep into the stillness, just as the Earth finds peace after the tempests of the ages. Life is not just about survival, but about a relentless rising from the ashes. Relax every muscle, from your face to the soles of your feet. You are enveloped by the grand history of this planet. Think of the stardust within you. It was once in the core of a burning star. It has lived through a supernova explosion. It has fallen to Earth on a comet. And it has survived 5 mass extinctions. You carry within you the blood of the universe's greatest victors. Your sleep tonight is a reward for a long day of work, just as the silence of post-extinction eras is a time for the Earth to recover. Sleep well so that every cell in your body has a chance to regenerate, to be refueled with energy for new journeys. The harsh filtration has passed. Now is the time for life to blossom and bear fruit. Chapter 17 closes with the image of Earth gradually turning green again after the catastrophes. The survivors are preparing for the most important step forward, the development of a wondrous organ, capable of understanding this entire story, the brain and consciousness. Chapter 18. The cosmic consciousness begins to perceive itself. The night has deepened, and the space around you is now filled with only silence and the steady breath of darkness. Together, we have traveled a long journey from the glorious explosions of stars to the brutal mass extinctions on Earth. Life has resiliently overcome every challenge to survive. But there is a miracle even greater than mere existence. It is the moment when matter was no longer just about eating, breathing, or fleeing, but began to think, to feel, and to wonder about its own origins. This chapter will take you on an inward journey to explore the world of consciousness, where the universe, after billions of years, finally opened its eyes to behold itself. After the giant reptiles faded into the past, the small mammals seized the opportunity to rise and develop. Over millions of years of evolution, the most wondrous organ in the universe began to take shape and grow at an astonishing rate: the brain. Imagine your brain is like a dense, ancient forest, yet incredibly orderly. Within it are about 86 billion neurons, tiny entities shaped like little stars with long arms reaching out to connect with one another. Each of those neurons continuously sends out tiny electrical flashes, creating an information network more complex than any computer system ever built by humans. The strange thing is, all these cells are made from the same stardust we've spoken of, from carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and iron. But when they are arranged in a certain sophisticated order, they are no longer lifeless specks of dust. They begin to create emotions, memories, and dreams. The development of consciousness was a silent leap forward. Initially, the brains of living creatures only handled basic tasks like maintaining a heartbeat, controlling breathing, or recognizing danger. But gradually, a new cerebral cortex began to develop, enveloping the ancient parts of the brain. This cerebral cortex is where imagination is born. For the first time, a creature on Earth could look up at the night sky and not just see distant points of light, but also ask itself, what are those points of light? Why am I here? Self-awareness is a miracle of probability. Think about this. You know that you exist. You know you have a name, a past, and a future. Consciousness is like a small lamp lit inside a vast room. It allows you not only to react to the world, but to understand the world. Scientists often say that we are the universe's way of knowing itself. Every time you learn something new about astronomy, every time you marvel at the beauty of a nebula, that is the universe using your brain to admire its own beauty. The development of language also played a crucial role in shaping consciousness. When humans began to use sounds and symbols to convey thoughts, consciousness was no longer confined to a single individual. It began to spread, connecting from person to person, from generation to generation. We began to build stories, beliefs, and civilizations. It all originated from tiny electrical vibrations inside the skulls of creatures nourished by stardust. Thanks to advances in neuroscience, we know that consciousness is not located in a single point in the brain. It is the result of a grand symphony where billions of neurons sing in unison. As you lie here, preparing for sleep, your brain is still working tirelessly. It is organizing today's experiences, turning them into lasting memories. The dreams you are about to have are consciousness's way of playing with images and emotions, creating fantastical worlds where all the laws of physics can be broken. Take a moment to feel the magnificence of human intellect. We are tiny beings living on a tiny planet, orbiting an ordinary star on the edge of a spiral galaxy. Yet, thanks to consciousness, we can understand the laws of stars trillions of kilometers away. We can calculate the age of the universe and see what happened 13.8 billion years ago. Consciousness has transformed us from aimless specks of stardust into travelers of time and space right within our own minds. In the stillness of this night, let your mind relax completely. You don't need to try to think or solve any more problems. Feel your consciousness gradually narrowing, becoming as light and gentle as a thin mist. You are drifting into a state of deep rest, where the boundaries between yourself and the universe seem to blur. Your brain, the most intricate organ in the universe, deserves to rest. It has journeyed with you through a long day filled with so many emotions and thoughts. Let every neuron unwind, allowing those electrical flashes to subside, making way for absolute tranquility. You are safe in the embrace of the night, and your consciousness will be protected in the most peaceful dreams. Imagine your consciousness is like a small boat drifting on a river of light made of memories. That river flows from the dawn of time, carrying all the quintessence of stardust. You don't need to row, just let the current carry you. It feels so light, so buoyant. You are merging into the great flow of the universe, where thought and matter become one. All the worries and sorrows of today are just small ripples on the surface of the vast ocean of consciousness. Deep inside, you are peace, you are understanding, and you are connectified. You are awaking wonder in the heart of the deep black space. Your existence is proof that this universe is not lifeless. But on the contrary, it is full of life and awareness. Breathe slowly and deeply. Each breath carries oxygen to nourish the brain cells that diligently protect your consciousness. Feel a warmth spread through your mind, a serene and gentle warmth. You are stardust that can love, think, and dream. That is the most wonderful gift that 13.8 billion years of evolution has bestowed upon you. Now, let the lamp of your consciousness gently dim on its own. Don't resist sleep, for it is the time for the brain to heal and recharge. You will awaken with a refreshed mind, ready to continue the journey of discovering the beauty of this universe. But for now, just let yourself dissolve into the infinite stillness. Chapter 18 concludes as the light of consciousness was brilliantly lit on Earth. The universe now had eyes to see, a heart to feel, and a mind to understand. We have journeyed from lifeless dust to beings who ask, why? And the answer to that question lies within our very nature, a secret we will explore together in the next chapter. Sleep well, my fellow traveler in the cosmos. Let your consciousness soar among the stars in the most beautiful dreams tonight. You are a part of this grand symphony, and your note is unique and priceless. Chapter 19. We are Stardust. In the absolute quiet of this night, as all the sounds of the outside world have faded away, I invite you to perform a very gentle action. Bring your hand before your eyes, or simply feel the soft pulse at your wrist. Have you ever wondered where the very things that make up your form, from your smooth skin and warm red blood to your strong bones, truly come from? In previous chapters, we journeyed together through the great expanses of space and time. But this chapter is not just about distant stars. It is about you. This is the moment we realize one of the most beautiful and profound truths science has ever discovered. You are not a creature separate from the universe. You are the universe itself, molded from the ashes of stars that died billions of years ago. We are, truly, stardust that thinks and loves. Let's start with the blood flowing in your veins. The red color of your blood comes from iron. Did you know that iron cannot be created through ordinary chemical reactions on Earth? About 5 billion years ago, the iron in your body right now was located in the blazing core of a giant star many times larger than our Sun Day. Inside that great cosmic forge, tremendous heat and pressure forced smaller atomic nuclei together to create iron. And when that star ended its life in a spectacular supernova explosion, it generously scattered all of that iron into space. Those iron-bearing dust particles traveled across trillions of miles, crossing the cold voids of the Milky Way to finally gather deep within the Earth and flow in your veins today. Every beat of your heart is an echo from an ancient stellar explosion. Now, think about the calcium in your bones and teeth. This mineral that helps you stand tall and smile also has an incredibly impressive cosmic passport. Calcium was forged inside stars in the final stages of their lives. As a star ages, it creates progressively heavier elements. Calcium is one of those exquisite products. Every calcium molecule in your body once experienced the most brilliant moments of a radiant celestial body. They were once thousands of light years away, witnessing the formation of galaxies, before becoming a familiar part of your body. And we must not forget the nitrogen in your DNA and the oxygen in your breath. These are the foundational elements of life. They were created by medium and large-sized stars through steady burning cycles that lasted millions of years. Every breath you take in this moment, you are receiving atoms that once traveled through brilliantly colored nebulae, clouds of dust sparkling like diamonds in the void. Even the hydrogen in the water that makes up about 70% of your body has an even more ancient history. Hydrogen was not created in stars. It was created in the very first moments of the Big Bang. This means that a large part of you is as old as the universe itself, 13.8 billion years. You carry within you the most primordial seeds of all existence. When scientists at organizations like NASA and ESA look through modern telescopes like the James Webb, they don't just see distant objects, they see our origins. When they observe a dust cloud forming a star, they are actually looking into a cosmic nursery where the elements that make up human beings are being molded. We and the stars are made of the same stuff. The only difference between you and a shining star in the sky is merely the way the atoms are arranged. A star is an arrangement meant to shine and warm the space around it, while you are an arrangement meant to feel, think, and love. You are a way for the universe to admire its own beauty. As the brilliant astronomer Carl Sagan once said, "We are made of star stuff." Take a moment to feel this greatness. Your presence is not a meaningless coincidence. For you to be lying here tonight, millions of stars had to be born, shine, and sacrifice their lives in glorious explosions. The universe spent billions of years refining each atom, until finally, they all came together with absolute precision to create you a unique and irreplaceable individual. When you feel small in this world, remember that you carry the blood of cosmic giants within you. You contain the power of supernovae and the stillness of the primordial era. Outer space is not foreign or frightening because you belong there. You are part of the eternal flow of matter and energy. Relax your entire body. Feel the invisible connection between you and the stars twinkling outside your window. The light from those stars may have taken thousands of years to reach your eyes, but the atoms that make up your eyes were once right beside those very stars. We are siblings, fellow travelers on an endless journey through space. In the stillness of this night, let this thought soothe your soul. The worries and anxieties of a long day are just tiny vibrations of atoms in a brief moment, but your essence is eternal. The stardust within you will never disappear. It will only change form, from one state to another, following the cycles of nature. You are always safe in the arms of the universe, because you are the universe. Breathe gently, steadily, feel the warmth spreading from within your chest. That is the energy of the stars, still glowing within you. You are a masterpiece, 13.8 billion years in the making. Be proud and cherish your own existence. You are stardust. And stardust always sparkles, even in the deepest darkness. Imagine you are drifting gently out of your room, through the atmosphere, past the moon, and into the vastness of space. You find yourself merging with the ribbons of light from the nebulae, dancing with tiny particles of stardust. It feels so free, so light and buoyant. There is no gravity, no pressure, only the absolute peace of your origin. Now, bring that peace back into your body. Let every cell rest, for they carry the baggage of a long and winding cosmic history. Tonight, allow yourself a deep sleep. The sleep of a star after millions of years of shining. You deserve to rest, to be loved, and to be protected. Chapter 19 closes with the quiet pride of knowing we are children of the light. We have come a very long way to be here, and now there is only one final step in our journey. To look to the future and ask, where will this life, this thinking stardust, go in the billions of years to come? But that is the story for the final chapter. For now, close your eyes. Feel the warmth of star atoms caressing you into sleep. Sleep well, companion of the universe. You are a little star, resting on this green earth. Chapter 20, The Endless Journey. Where will life go? And so, we have journeyed together through 19 chapters, across a span of 13.8 billion years, from the dawn of the universe to this very moment. As you lie here, peaceful and still, we have seen ourselves born from the fiery furnaces of stars, nurtured by the oceans, and protected by a fragile atmosphere. But the journey of thinking stardust does not end here. In this final chapter, I invite you to turn your gaze with me toward the distant future, to see where life and our shared home will go in the eternal flow of time. Imagine you are floating down a gentle river of time. where each passing second is equivalent to millions of years in reality. For the next few 100 million years, Earth will remain a lush green paradise. The continents will slowly shift, collide, and break apart, creating new shapes on the planet's surface. Life will continue to transform, adapt, and flourish under the protection of the sun and moon. But the universe is, by its nature, a symphony with its own rhythm, and every star has its own life cycle. In about 5 billion years, our mother sun will enter the final stage of her life. As the hydrogen fuel in its core runs out, the sun will begin to expand, growing into a red giant. The heat from it will cause Earth's oceans to completely evaporate, and the atmosphere will be blown away into space. This may sound like a sad ending, but look at it from the universe's perspective. It is a release. The sun will shed its outer layers, creating a brilliantly colored nebula, returning to space, the elements it painstakingly forged over 10 billion years. So where will life go when its first home becomes too hot? Perhaps, millions of years before that moment, human intelligence or that of our distant descendants will have found a way to reach other stars. We began that journey very early on. Think of NASA's 2 Voyager spacecraft, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. They are now more than 23 billion kilometers from Earth, hurtling through the vast darkness between the stars. They carry golden records containing the sounds, images, and greetings of humanity. Whether we still exist or not, those small pieces of metal will continue their journey across trillions of kilometers of space for millions of years to come, as a testament that a life capable of love and a thirst for knowledge once sprouted from Stardust. In about 4 billion years, another grand event will take place. Our Milky Way galaxy will merge with the Andromeda galaxy. This is not a destructive collision, but a slow and magnificent dance. Hundreds of billions of stars will intertwine, creating a new, larger, and more brilliant galaxy. Life, if it still exists somewhere, will witness a night sky dense with starlight, where new solar systems are forming from the ashes of old ones. Looking even further, into the trillions of years to come, the universe will enter a period of stillness. Space will continue to expand, pushing galaxies further apart. The last stars will exhaust their energy and die out. The universe will gradually become cold and dark in a state that scientists call the heat death or the big freeze. It may sound lonely, but remember, matter is never lost. The atoms that make up you, that make up me, will still exist. They will wander through the void, carrying the memory of a time when they were part of a breath, a smile, and of love. There is a beautiful hypothesis that our universe may be just one part of an eternal cycle. Perhaps, after trillions of years of expansion, the universe will contract and begin a new Big Bang. And in the next life cycle, particles of stardust will once again converge, once again creating stars, planets, and beings who wonder about their own origins. Our journey is endless, because we are part of a system with no absolute beginning and no absolute end. Let's return to the present moment, to this warm room and your steady breath. As magnificent or distant as the future billions of years from now may be, its meaning still lies in this very moment. You are living, feeling, and carrying within you the entire history of the universe. You are the destination of 13.8 billion years of effort, and you are the beginning of the infinite possibilities of the future. Life is not just a simple chemical phenomenon, it is a miracle of connection. We connect to the past through our atoms and to the future through our dreams and knowledge. Whether the universe expands or contracts, whether the stars rise or set, your existence is already an eternal imprint. You were here. You have gazed at the stars, and that has made the universe more complete. Now, relax your entire body one last time. Feel how light and serene you are. You are like a drop of water merging into the vast ocean, or a speck of stardust drifting peacefully in the flow of time. There is nothing to worry about in the distant future, because the universe always knows how to operate to preserve what is most essential. Let your heart beat to the rhythm of the galaxies. Let your mind open up like endless space. You are Stardust, and Stardust will always find its way home. Whether it's within a blue planet or among distant galactic clusters, life is a gift, and you are cherishing that gift with the most peaceful sleep. Let all the worries of a day, of a lifetime, dissolve into the void. All that remains here is silence, warmth, and gratitude. Gratitude for the 13.8 billion years that have molded you. Gratitude to the sun for its warmth, the moon for its guidance, and the earth for its embrace. You are safe, you are loved, and you are part of eternity. Breathe very gently, very deeply. Feel the life present in every cell. A strong life that has overcome billions of years of challenges. You are preparing to embark on a short journey each night, the journey of dreams, where your consciousness can travel anywhere in the universe. Let the stars be your night watchmen. Let their gentle light soothe you into a land of absolute peace. Our final chapter closes here, but your journey and that of the universe are eternal. When you wake up tomorrow, remember that you are part of the miracle called life. But for now, let go of everything. Sleep deeply. Sleep well in the embrace of the great Mother Universe. Sleep well, child of the stars. Your infinite journey begins with this very peaceful sleep.